Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today loves potato chips and decided to celebrate Chicago's famous foods on a chip. Please welcome the owner of Local Style Potato Chips, Laura Gardner. David. How's it going, Laura?
Hey, thank you for having me. What an honor to be on Lunch with Biggie.
I appreciate it. I love being able to have a little lunch break, obviously figurative, imaginary lunch break. Wanted to talk, and I guess my first question will be, it'll be a twofer, okay? Just because obviously I want you to be able to plug the chips, and we'll talk about the chips and everything like that. But what is your go-to lunch or sandwich?
Well, it's got to be the JP Graziano's, which is a beloved legacy deli here in Chicago. And the sandwich I love is called the Mr. G. And the ingredient that I think is so special is artichoke. It is an unexpected but delicious layer to this overall Italian sub. So it's so good.
When you have that, what of the local style potato chips do you have with it? What's the combo mix that you have with it?
It's hot jarred all the way, and sometimes even crushed on the sandwich, local style.
Yes.
But yeah, you can get the Mr. G with jarred and with your spice level of jarred. And then when you layer the chips in, it gives that like nice crunch to the overall like really layered texture, and there's nothing like it.
So JP, they've been on the show because obviously that's how quick version is that's how I kind of found out about you, was because I profess my love to JP Graziano every single time anyone ever mentions Chicago. That's the first thing I say. I'm like, I got a place for you to eat. This is where you got to go. I was just there, and I wish we would have crossed paths sooner, because I was just there I think it was last year, and I literally must have eaten at JP Graziano's at least from the window, as well as also during lunchtime. So when I saw that you were there and you were chips there, I was like, I need to talk to Laura. I need to know more about how this whole thing happened. So with that being said, tell people a little bit about how you even came up with the idea to do local style chips, and what inspired you to do chips?
Yeah, so I love chips and I love Chicago and Chicago food. And the notion was really, can we smash these two things together and make it taste delicious and make a really snackable, fun way to enjoy Chicago's famous foods? And you see this happening all over the globe. So I like to travel internationally, and in Asia especially, they have really perfected local cuisine on a potato chip. I remember being on my honeymoon with my husband David, and we were eating Kobe beef chips and seaweed chips in Japan. And you see that kind of same thing all over the world. And that's really what sparked the inspiration of, we have the best food in the world. I love Orlando. So
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure
we
there's
don't have
wonderful treats down in Orlando, but
Orlando's awesome, but it does not have these distinct flavors of Chicago. Like we don't have a distinguished, like if someone says, "Hey, what sandwich is Orlando?" I can name a bunch of places, but it's not like Chicago that has like signature foods, which is one of the things that I love. And I'm kind of curious how many people have gone to you and said, "My God, how did I not think of this?" Because I mean, it's meant to be like what you've done. Now tell people a little bit about the assortment of chips, because and where that idea went, like what was the first one that you did, the first chip, and what it's kind of blossomed to, because you have quite an assortment of menu items of Chicago style type chips.
well, I mean, to your first question, the reception from Chicago has been amazing. This city, when it comes to food, this city shows up, and we have had the benefit of meeting face to face with thousands of our local style customers. We're in stores all the time, sampling the product. It's Chicago summer, so street festivals are every weekend, and local style pops up its tent, and we're interacting with all neighborhoods all across Chicago. And people really do love the chips. And so that has been so fun to see. And let me introduce to you our lineup here. So we have Chicago style hot dog, and this is Davy Dog, affectionately named after my husband, David. And this is our deep dish pizza flavor. And this is little Miss Lucy Lou, my daughter Lucy.
Love it.
Named after her. And then let's see. I'm missing juicy juice. I
I
grabbed the
got you.
wrong
I got you.
flavor.
I
Okay,
got you
show me
juicy
juicy. You
juice.
got juicy?
Yeah, so this
All
is
right, this is
juicy
our Italian
juice.
beef flavor.
The
There he
Italian
is. There's our
the
guy.
graph
He's
I
getting
love
down.
being a guy who loves little mascots. I absolutely love all these. And then the other one you have, which is obviously the classic, which is your Mikey over here.
Yep, we've got classic. Little
And
Mikey
then
here.
and then the
You know,
last one that
little
you
some
did,
winks at Michael Jordan.
yes. And then I'm assuming the last one is the hot jar. That one is the last one that you've created, right? That was the last one or your most recent
Exactly.
one?
Yeah, so we launched with like Chicago's trifecta. So these were the, well, you've got Italian beef. So we had hot dog, pizza, and Italian beef. We launched with those along with the classic salted, because sometimes you just need a good clean kettle chip. And then fast follow was the hot Giardiniera. And yeah, it's the Chicago classics. But what's fun about Chicago is like there's so many different types of foods. I think these are the most like obvious and well known, but I really think it would be fun to open it up to the community and say like what flavors do you want to see? I mean, there are so many incredible neighborhoods, you know, Puerto Rican food, Mexican food, Polish food, lots of ground we haven't covered yet. And then just some really fun ideas of like collabs and different chefs. So I think there's so many directions that we could take all these Chicago flavors and you know, out of the gate, here we are with our family of five, but who knows where it could go.
So which one what was the first chip the hot dog? Was that the first like the first concept that you kind of were like, "Hey, this would be like the first one that you came up with when
We
you were
did,
starting?"
yeah, we developed them as a family. So hot dog, pizza, and Italian beef, we were all developing pretty much in tandem. And it was like we were getting ready to launch, and I was like, we have to have hot jarred this summer. I think like in our original minds, we were like, oh, maybe next year, maybe, you know, 2026. But I was like, no, like we cannot wait. The world needs hot jarred chips right now. And so we like fast followed on the development of that flavor. And I'm not a chef. So teamwork makes the dream work. And we brought in some incredible flavor experts and kind of picture it like pulling spices out of your cabinet and blending these dry spices together. So you're harnessing the flavors of these foods through these dried powder versions of them and then trying to find the right balance. And that was really a fun R&D experience because like with pizza we're like too tomato, too cheese, too much oregano, like you can kind of tip pretty far pretty quickly. And so with each flavor, we were trying to balance the notes, giving each flavor a distinction. Like we want the flavors to be clear enough. Like in hot dog, I think there's like 7 flavors in there. There's, you know, the mustard, the pickle, the sport pepper, the celery salt, the tomato, the relish. Like we're trying to pack a lot in there. So we want clarity, but you also want the blend to feel really balanced.
Yeah. What So how did you like did you have a background in this? Like how did it all kind of start? Like what triggered it for you to be like this is what I'm going to be doing? I want to do this. I want to open this. I want to start this. Was there like a tipping point that led you to saying I want to make this happen and I have this idea. I want to make it, you know, I want to make some kettle chips and make this.
There was definitely a tipping point because I got laid off from my corporate job. And pressure makes diamonds. So I was laid off, no severance. I have 2 young kids and really wanted to my whole life be an entrepreneur. And I sort of looked at the hand I was dealt and I said, wow, this is the world sending me a message. This is the world kind of opening up the opportunity for me to do the thing I've said since I was a kid, I've always wanted to do, which is to start my own company. And I do have a background in product development, product innovation. I spent 20 years working in the consumer packaged goods industry. So started my career at Procter and Gamble, working on some awesome brands like the Tide brand, and then worked at PepsiCo for 12 years on their beverage business. So was the Gatorade global brand director, turned around the Propel water business, was leading beverage innovation across their portfolio, and then got this wild idea to join a fast growing startup company and was only there 9 months before the whole thing kind of blew up. And so we all lost our jobs in a snap of a finger. Everyone was out of work. And that was really the moment where, well, you know, to be honest, I took 2 weeks to kind of be sad and not know what
As
was
you
next
should.
and do it. do I go back to corporate? Do I take job interviews? Like, what am I doing here? And I spent a little bit of time in that zone. And then I just had the kind of like pull yourself up by the bootstrap. Pressure makes diamonds. Let's go. Let's do this. I gave myself a time frame. I said, because, to commit to a whole new path can be scary. This was all around like last summer. So call it like June, July. And I said, I'm going to do this to the end of the year. I'm going to give myself this time box and let me see how far I can get. And at the end of the year, I'm going to check in with myself and I'm going to say, do I believe it? Have I built a good product? Have I created a strong brand? And if I have done all that in 6 months, I'll keep going. And if I haven't, I'm going to give myself a permission slip to take a different path. But I had to time box it for my own sanity because, committing to an entire new track and not knowing the fate of it and having a lot of fear of the unknown, that time frame really helped me keep my head in the game and keep my head down for 6 months. And then at the end of it, I was like, wow, we really have something here. Like, this is going to be great. And so the new year rolled around and we got some sales samples made. And I hit the sales trail. I went knocking door to door on my favorite markets and delis around Chicago and, pretty nervous to sort of walk in cold and introduce myself and show them these crazy chips I had invented and just see what they would say. And luckily there was a lot of, really amazing people in Chicago that believed in me and believed in the idea. Jim Graziano was one of them. He saw the idea and said, I love it. His confidence gave me confidence. I can't tell you how nervous I was to walk into his shop. And even, standing in his office, showing him the chips. I mean, I hope I didn't show it, but I was shaking. I was like, what if he hates it? What if he thinks it's stupid? What if, he's like, you've wasted my time, get out of my shop, which now that I know him, he would never treat anyone
Correct.
that way. But you build this up in your head.
Yeah.
And another fun story was Mr. Beef. So here we are all enjoying season 4 of The Bear. It's back. I'm really enjoying. I'm on episode 5. Have you watched?
That's where I'm
at.
Yet? That's where I'm at. I'm at episode 5 too. They just, it was like, what is it called? Worms, I think is what it was called. That's the one where she's getting her hair. I just finished that yesterday.
Yep. Yeah. So the hair episode was great. I think the season, there are no spoilers because I haven't seen it. But it's a slow build and the character development and the storytelling is so strong. So I'm really enjoying it. But, for those who don't know,
how did that happen? Yeah, I was kind of curious. Like, let people know like how the whole bear situation occurred and what happened there as like one of your first customers.
So, Biggie, this is a story of someone who is established reaching their hand out to someone who is new and pulling that person up. And that is what Chris Zucchero did for me. And I will forever be grateful and indebted and loyal to him and also pay it forward. Like, I will never forget what he did for me. And I hope one day I'm in a position where I can do that for someone else. But here's how it went. So I had my chip samples in my hand and I walked down Orleans Avenue and walked into Mr. Beef unannounced and pretty scared. The guys were there whipping out beefs and they've always got a queue. They've got a line out the door. Today it was like a little quieter. I came around like 3:30 in the afternoon. So it had died down a little bit. And I said, is your owner here? And the guys were like, he's in and out, like not right now. And then he appeared. I mean, honestly, I think I have an angel on my shoulder in this business. He walks and the timing couldn't have been more perfect. And I say, Chris, my name's Laura. I have my chips in my arms. I created these chips. I think you might like them. I think your customers might like them. And the best case scenario in my head was Mr. Beef would carry the chips. That was all I was thinking. And if that's what happened, I would have walked out, which I did, kind of like jumping and screaming and like, yes, like he said yes. So he rips open the bag and he eats the chips. And he's like, these are fucking amazing. Like, these are delicious. He's calling his guys out from the back, come on, taste this. You got to taste this. Look at these new chips. And, he was like, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to carry the chips, but I'm also going to share these with my friends at the Bear. He's like, no promises. Like, I cannot guarantee anything, but I can put them in the hands of the people. I can share the chips. So he's like, you bring me back some more chips tomorrow and we'll go from there. And so, of course, I bring him like a giant box of chips, like as many chips as I could. And a couple days later, I get a phone call, and it is the catering team, the craft services team at the Bear. And they say, Laura, we'd love to, everyone gets hungry around set. We'd love to bring your chips on as a snack. So my very first paying customer was the Bear, which like pinched me, like my favorite show. I'm obsessed with what they have done for the city, for the food scene, for the restaurant industry, and just the general storytelling of what it's like to be someone who lives in Chicago. So that's how it happened. I mean, sometimes you just gotta walk in cold and say,
Hey, I
here I
mean, and
am.
I think a lot of it also comes down to the fact that you've like, you get to the point where I think sometimes, how some people say like, hey, I got lucky or whatever. And like you said, guardian angel, like I do really do think that like you create that luck based on the fact of like the effort, the energy, the passion, like all these things start like the universe listens and actually will kind of reward and give back. And I think those are some of the things where people can see that. Like that's one thing that I captured whenever I watched any of your videos with you and David, like your husband, when you guys talk about it, and just kind of what you guys are doing and just giving the behind the scenes of, hey, we're just, like trying to create this brand. And like, and like, I love the fact that you've already kind of like put it out to the universe. Like I want all 77 like little stores and like markets and delis to carry my product as they should. And why wouldn't they? And I think more places around the country should have it as well. I'm kind of curious during this whole time of you doing it, and obviously I know that it helps that you have a background in the consumer package industry. How difficult is it the scaling of from where you were in the very beginning, coming up with an idea, trying to figure out samples and work that way to then getting it to the point of now you're building demand and having to kind of grow that. Like how difficult was that? Because there's a mix there of like money, like there's like that money aspect, but then there's also like the fear of like, oh crap, like what if it doesn't? I'm investing all this, and what do I do with all these chips? Like what kind of went through your mind, or what was some of the stuff that you had to deal with when it came to that?
Biggie, I think you're tapping into one of the hardest things that I've found out on this business, which is matching supply and demand. At the beginning, all you're trying to do is convince a chip maker to make you the smallest amount of chips possible because you don't know what you have. And that was sort of like me trying to find that right partner at the beginning who would work with me in a small capacity. And then when we've proven product market fit, now we're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how do we make more chips quicker? And then if we make all these chips, how are we going to distribute them and where are we going to store them? And figuring out the process and the infrastructure. I mean, I come from these huge companies where there's a department and a matrix and a layered, network of people for every single function. And now it's like I am the function. Like there's no supply chain department for me to call. I have a background, in innovation and marketing. Like I don't have a background in logistics, but I'm getting one. I'm learning it really fast. And wild cards happen. I mean, we were warehousing with someone and they were also helping us do our weekly deliveries. And they called me and they're like, Laura, we're going out of business tomorrow. Like tomorrow. Like you got to come get all your product. And so it was like a 24-hour hustle of like, who do we know or who do our friend, like, we're just trying to call someone with a big ass warehouse where we can go like park a bunch of product until we can figure things out. I mean, there are twists and turns that come that are very unexpected. And what I'm trying to build right now before we try to scale or grow or expand, like I'm trying to build a strong foundation, like seem to have built a very strong brand, and we will continue to invest in our community and getting, that we've got great flavors, we've got a great lineup, and we'll keep that going. But the infrastructure around us, how we distribute, how we produce, all of that needs to be built out. And that's what I'm spending a lot of my time on. The Instagram posts are really fun, but there's like the brass tacks of the business, and that's where a lot of my attention is going right now.
Yeah, I was trying to think about it because like when I saw videos of you guys like doing the delivery of like, hey, we're delivering chips today, and and you have like a truck and you're like delivering, and I think to myself like it is so difficult and so different. Like in my world, obviously as a clothing brand, I either do wholesale, but I also do stuff where I'm doing everything via like from this room, and I'm basically packing everything myself and mailing things out. Very different animal as opposed to I have all these shops to go to and I have to restock all these shops and kind of do all that, and then at the same time be just and then and be like who can help me, like I at least need someone maybe to drive the truck so I can at least drop off stuff, and figuring out all
Well,
the
that's how
orders
it's
and the
been.
logistics.
My gosh, like, for the first couple weeks, it was just me and David in a U-Haul. And then our neighbor was in between jobs. So then it was like, okay, well, Steven can take a couple routes. And then like, through another friend, we met Chris, and then like Chris is going to take a couple routes. So it's just been very homegrown in that way. And I think we're realizing that there is legitimate demand for this product. And so we need a legitimate distribution team that can help us serve the Chicagoland area. And so we're looking for that now. And I hope that we will build the right piping for this, for what we're building and the right foundation. But we're not there yet. We're laughing through some of it. Like we have a e-commerce direct to consumer site. So this is your world in a sense. And like just this week, we realized like we've been undercharging for shipping this whole time. For 3 months, we've been in business. We're like losing money on every sale. And it's just because we didn't know. Like we did not know. We thought we clicked the right button in Shopify. We thought we had it all set, and turns out we didn't. And so we're giving ourselves a little bit of grace as we learn our way through this. But I believe in it. I bet we will get it. Like I really, really do. I believe in myself. I believe in David. I believe in the team that we have, and we're building something special for Chicago. And these little sort of twists and turns along the way are not scaring us away. We are so committed. We have a big vision. Like I don't know if Orlando knows what Garrett's popcorn is, but it's a beloved Chicago snack. And if
Yes.
they have a shop in Tokyo, like they've taken their flavors and their Chicago provenance and expanded it to, endless bounds of the world. And I really do think what we're building could be what Garrett's is to popcorn. We could be that for potato chips. And I see a really special connection with the Chicago consumers, but also the tourists, frankly, people who visit Chicago. Local style chips is as much a souvenir as it is a snack for them. And so we have a really dynamic target market where we can connect with locals, we can connect with tourists, or just anyone who's ever visited the city.
Yeah. No, you guys have done you've done a really good job. I know David, I know David's background is they helped with like the packaging, and like the packaging is phenomenal. Like I studied marketing, so I'm like a branding. I love all the branding type stuff. I love when you guys do the events, and like the fact that you are doing all the events at all the festivals in Chicago where people can get to try and sample things. I think those are all things that you obviously need. The name, I love the name because the name, it's like subtle and perfect, but at the same time like opens up like and I totally like I'm not going to be one of those, because I know you have people that are asking you, when are you going to do New York, when are you going to do this city, when are you going to do that, like you're trying to like, hey, we just figure out Chicago first, like let me first figure this part out. But the name is perfect because it does open up the aperture for you to be able to experiment and open up to different flavors and different places and things like that, which is one of the things that I loved about it, is the fact that I'm like, man, I'm like, what a wide open, like it just makes sense to be able to do. And then I kind of laughed because I was just like, how has there not been an Italian beef chip or something like that? And then the fact the way you guys have captured it, I think is the thing that I enjoy the most. Like my wife loves a good Chicago dog, so she of course, I was the first ones that we devoured in our house, because you guys have just done a really, I love the little characters, I love the food, I love what you guys have done. It's just, I don't know, it's just excellent. I'm just super excited for you guys.
Thank you, Biggie.
I wanted to talk about something that came up, and I guess it's, once again, I think it's one of those where like good opportunities that kind of build up. So I saw you on the red carpet of a James Beard Award, wearing, of all things, like, and like I would have freaked out if someone would have came to me. But like, what? Tell people what you wore to this James Beard Award. Not to mention, also, I believe it was also a snack available during the James Beard Awards that were consumed. They got to have your local style chips. But tell people how you came dressed to the event.
So I got this. Well, for anyone listening, the James Beard Awards are the Oscars of food. It's a big food moment. All the best chefs in the industry descend on Chicago once a year from all over the nation. And there are different categories like, best chef in the nation, and then they break it up by region. So it's a very prestigious award to win. The awards are pretty long. And I learned this year, people are very hungry because it goes from about 5 until 11, and no one gets to eat until the after party, which is like an all you can eat midnight buffet of literally the best food in the world. So during this food desert from 5 to 11, local style chips had the incredible like pinch me opportunity to be the snack served. So we were the only thing you could eat in the whole lyric opera house for these 5 hours. And so, we're watching these fancy award shows. Everyone is in their full on black tie formal, just munching on local style chips. So that was how we got included in the event. And I had this idea, and I love fashion. And my first notion was like, well, what am I going to wear to this red carpet black tie event? And that's like the lightning bolt struck me. I was like, could I build this outfit out of potato chip bags? Like, would that even be possible? And so I did what every woman does when they have a fashion idea. They immediately go on Pinterest and they see if this has ever been done before. And so I started to build a little Pinterest board of like, okay, that's like not exactly what I'm going for, but it is clothing fashioned out of snack bags. There were some like indications to me that maybe this was possible. But I knew if I got out a hot glue gun, like things would go south. And so I contacted the School of the Art Institute that has a fashion department here in Chicago. And I thought maybe someone there could connect me with a student who might want a fun project. And so I was connected with, I cannot speak highly enough about this human being. His name is Tukey Tucker. And he took my harebrained, potentially impossible idea and turned it into couture. Like the outfit that he assembled for me was it was a beautiful pantsuit with a gown apron that was removable for a reveal. And everyone loves a reveal. And Tukey thought about, every moment of this event for me, not just the wow factor, but also the functionality. He thought about how the pants would be made so they didn't crinkle when I sat down. He didn't want me to disrupt the award show because, of course, the whole spotlight of the night is on the chefs. So how do I create this outfit out of bags but not have it be too loud? He thought about the red carpet moment and how the press would, kind of eat up the moment where the skirt comes off and the pantsuit. And he really, like took the symbolism of a working woman and, she's like pantsuit by day, but gown by night. And like, kind of took my story of being laid off and making lemonade out of lemons. And that was really the inspiration for his creativity. And it turned out beyond my wildest dreams. And even that day, I was really scared to wear it, to be honest, because I just didn't know what the response was going to be. And it was a big statement. I'm not like a spotlight seeking person. So I don't know. I just almost chickened out. And my husband was like, Laura, there is no plan B. Like, this is what's happening. And I'm like, you're right. Like, you're totally right. And I put on the outfit and did my hair and put on some makeup and got out of the Uber. And there we were. And it was an incredible experience and evening. And honestly, like definitely a highlight of starting this business, but a very cool, memorable experience. Like if I look at my whole life, it was pretty.
The chips, did you just have like all the different chips, so like people were able to select, or was the hot jar the same one, like the chip of choice for everyone to eat at the James Beard, or did you have your whole selection of chips?
Yeah, so it was really a design decision to focus on a single flavor. In my Pinterest research, my extensive Pinterest research, I noticed that when it was a lot of different flavors or a lot of different types of bags, it started to feel informal. And I thought that a single flavor with like a repeated pattern would create a more elegant look. And so that was probably my only creative contribution, and Tukey took it from there. But I really did want to commit. I thought the black and white would elevate the look and make it formal. You know, I was nervous to wear something so casual and material that is, you know, intended to be disposable to this black tie event. I didn't want to like offend anyone. I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure it was formal.
But so was the hot jar then the chip that everyone also consumed at the event then as well? So it kind of went in line with what you were wearing?
All the flavors were at the event.
Okay, that's what
So
I
you
was
could
curious
choose.
about. I knew that the hot jar was the one all for the whole thing because it had that uniform look. I mean, it was killer. So it made sense. That's why I was curious if they also only were eating. Everyone was eating the same chip, so they were like eating the chip and then looking at you and going, "Oh, it's her. She's a chip person," type of thing. So no, that's phenomenal. So one of the things that I'm always kind of curious because you said like the little things, and one thing that and this is just me because I've been doing my brand for 12 years. So one thing that I always like to bestow on any small business, or at least kind of shared, not that just as a reminder, is and I also say this because I have to remind myself because I tend to forget this very often because we're constantly going. But I would definitely make sure you write down and keep somewhere, even if it's a post-it note and you put it in a little bag or something, just something, all these little victories and these little things that occur, because in the course of a year, you tend to forget. Like now you've fully been a full year since you've had the concept of the idea, since you've already doing this. There's going to be things that you're going to miss that at the times when you have those rocky moments that you mentioned, like sometimes that come or the turns that you kind of are like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And those are the times that you go back and you can remember those moments. I think to me, that's like, I have to remind myself about to do that because sometimes we don't, like you said, give yourself grace. We don't give ourselves grace as a small business, especially when you have such a passion for it and you want it to be such a big, successful thing that we want, you feel it, it comes out of your body. Like you radiate it, but it's like, and you can't get it fast enough sometimes. So you have to sometimes remind yourself. So that's just my one thing I'll share with you, my listeners, to definitely give yourself grace, but write down those little victories because when you have those moments, and maybe you don't have someone that actually like a David, like your husband or my wife, who like basically will be there to be like, hey, we can do this. You can always go back to those moments to be like, okay, yeah, I've done these things. Look how far I've come from where I could have been because you probably have experienced this quite a bit in the consumer product packaging. And yet people come with ideas, but they don't actually do the idea. They come up with it and then they don't actually do anything with it. And you're doing that, which is like fully remarkable, Laura.
Thank you.
So I just think it's one of those things where I think it's super important to be able to kind of share. And with that, I did have a question on what advice would you have, speaking of wanting and having ideas, what advice would you have for someone wanting to start something?
That's a great question. Believe in yourself. I think that that is what held me back from starting my own business. I'm 20 years into my career, and I think that I've had many ideas over the years. There have been different moments or different crossroads where I've thought about it or come close, but didn't quite do it. And I think that what was holding me back was my own conviction. And so my advice to anyone out there with an idea is calm the self-doubt, like quiet it, tell it to go away, do whatever you need to do to squash that voice and believe in yourself. Believe in yourself more than anyone else in the whole world. Just believe in your idea and believe that you are the perfect person to bring it to life.
I love that. I love that. I kind of needed to hear that as well for myself. So thanks. Where can people follow you? Where can they get shop for their chips if they're not in Chicago and they want to order online on your website, or if they're in Chicago, tell people kind of where they can sample or try this if they're curious on what it is, or they love Chicago foods and they kind of want something but they can't order, they can't get it, but this is a great alternative to be able to kind of bring you back to those flavors. Where can people follow and check out your stuff?
So give us a follow at Local Style Chips on TikTok and Instagram, and check us out at localstylechips.com. Open 24/7, ships nationwide, and there is a handy store finder right on our website, so you can type in your zip code. Right now, majority of our distribution is only in and around Chicagoland. There's a couple pockets that are elsewhere, but that's really where you'll find us. And think corner delis, local markets, hotels, if you're traveling. Those are the primary spots where you can find us. And shout out to a couple like Goddess and the Grocer. There's 3 across the city. Beatrix Market, there's 4 across the city. Fairgrounds Coffee, there's 4 across the city. So those are helpful because no matter what neighborhood you're in Chicago, you can usually find one of those.
And I'm gonna put a call to anyone who listens who's from Chicago, or if you're visiting Chicago. Obviously, I tell people go visit JP Graziano, but if you go eat anywhere else or do anything like that, and you don't see local style potato chips, I think I would greatly appreciate it, and so would Laura, if you actually kind of told them, hey, I was like, have you had those great potato chips, local style potato chips? And then say they're local. You should totally get them or have them here because they're phenomenal. Or I heard about them. Have you heard about them? And like try to and help spread the word. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. I think when people and grocers and other places realize those things, they do really can see and kind of like, hey, word of mouth is important. When they start hearing it a few times, then they'll start be able to reach out to Laura to hopefully have it if she hasn't reached out to them already. But it's always a nice reminder for those businesses. So I definitely that's definitely my call to action for you guys to be able to do, especially if you're in Chicago, or if you're interested, definitely do some shopping at Local Style Chips and to be able to do some shopping online and order some chips for yourself. Laura, thank you so much for coming on, taking a few minutes. I know you're busy making chips and distribution and logistics and all of that, so I really do appreciate it. That's our show for today. If you'd like, obviously make sure to support. You'll see the show notes. You'll be able to kind of follow, definitely share. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe. If this inspired you, share it with someone and have them say, hey, listen, I heard this episode. I think you'd really appreciate hearing Laura's story. I think that is the beauty of this show, is to be able to kind of share. Sometimes someone else may give you a voice that kind of be like, hey, this inspires me. And I think that's something that one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Laura, because I think I knew she would inspire me, but I also thought she would inspire others. If you enjoyed, if you want to support my brand, check out Deli Fresh Threads. Obviously, tell your friends. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion.